Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Chris and welcome to LinuxTechGeek. So today we're going to do another one of those real talk videos, and I've had a weird 24 hours here on Linux. So last night around 10 o'clock Eastern, I got this weird idea that, I was like, I'm getting a little tired of Gen 2, just a little bit. I want to try something new. And I was thinking in my mind that I wanted to try a distro that, I haven't tried in a very long time. And I wanted to use a different package manager that I haven't really used all that much, just to gain a little bit experience using something else. Well, so I thought to myself, I might try Fedora. Now, for those of you that don't know, back when I was around 14 years old, I'm 36 right now. Back when I was 14 years old, Fedora was the first Linux distribution that I ever installed. Back then, it was called Red Hat, but it's the same company, right? So I thought to myself, I'm going to try Fedora. There's a lot of people here on YouTube that run Fedora. They rave about it. They honestly think it's one of the best distros out there. So I was like, yeah, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. So I go to Fedora's website, and I look around for the ISO. Now, their website is not that great in terms of finding ISOs, but eventually I found the ISO page and everything like that. And they have a couple of different versions. They have the GNOME version, which is their, I guess, like their mainstream version. And then they have some spins. So they have a KDE spin, an i3 spin, and I think an XFCE spin, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I'm not a big GNOME person, so I grabbed KDE. And I was like, I'm going to give this KDE spin a shot. Downloaded the ISO, put it on my thumb drive, booted up, no issues. I get to the installer. Okay, and their installer, yeah, it works. Is it as good as the Calamari's installer? No, nowhere near it. Calamari's is super fast, super easy, and pretty much it's like 6 next clicks and you're done. With the Fedora installer, I did have to, I had to read a little bit more and I had to do a couple other things, but it worked, right? So we get KDE Fedora installed. All right, great. Rebooted into my, made a root user, or I made a root password, created my user and everything like that, like you're supposed to. Go to reboot. Reboot seemed to, it was pretty quick, but as soon as we got to SDDM, okay, I run a dual monitor setup, okay, so it was about to, SDDM was about to, pop up, and when I seen on my left hand side monitor, it looked like a window popped up for a second and then it disappeared, right? And then I got a blank screen. I waited around for a good 5-10 minutes. I was thinking maybe, SDDM is having some kind of configuration issues or something, so I waited around. It didn't come up. Well, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to reboot. Maybe that'll fix the issue. So I reboot. That fixed the issue. Okay. So I log in to KDE. No issues. Now, I run a Nvidia chipset video card. Okay. I use the proprietary Nvidia drivers because they're better than the open source drivers. I need the proprietary Nvidia drivers, okay, for video acceleration and all of the good things that the proprietary drivers provides for my hardware. Well, I did notice I was on Wayland, and I was using the open source drivers, And to be quite honest, the open source drivers, they seem to handle Wayland pretty decently. There was a little lag, but I knew that going in. I knew that Fedora used Wayland as its primarily, I guess it's compositor, right? Or it's X Windows system or Windows system, whatever. So I knew that going in. And I was like, I can fix this issue in a little while. So the first thing I do when I log into KDE is I figure out how to update the system, right? That's probably the first thing you should do. So I did the DNF update, or well, actually I edited the DNF configuration file to use the fastest mirror first. Then I updated 700. I think it was like 750 packages. 750 packages. Okay. No big deal. We download those. We install them. No problem. And I did notice that it downloaded a new kernel. So that was good. I reboot. Right? Because it's a new kernel. Got to reboot to use that new kernel. It automatically added the new kernel to Grub. That was a good thing. Okay. And this is where issues started to pop up a little bit. So when I rebooted into the new kernel, it was taking a little longer to boot up. In fact, it was taking a lot longer than it initially took to boot up. But still, I was like, we can fix these issues. I'll look at the message later and we'll see what's going on. No big deal, right? Well, so okay, I'll log in to KDE again. And I said the first order of business, the first thing that I'm going to do is we need to get RPM Fusion going. So for those of you who don't know, RPM Fusion is the way on Fedora to get non-free software and to get some additional repositories that that you might need. Okay, so I added RPM Fusion, updated the repositories, and I got everything going. So then I was like, well, I need my Nvidia drivers, right? Because I run an Nvidia card. I want my proprietary drivers. Well, so I have to Google all this information because I'm not familiar with Fedora or anything like that. So I go ahead and I came across two or three articles, and they all pretty much said the same thing. So I followed the directions. Okay, we got those installed. And then I was like, well, I need to reboot again because we need to be able to, we need for the Nvidia drivers to take effect and not the open source drivers. I go to reboot, and then Grub does this weird thing where it changed, like, it looked like it changed the frame buffer, it changed the frame buffer, like, size or whatever, and I was like, that's nothing. That's happened before. No big deal. Again, it took a minute to boot up, but I was like, I'll fix these little problems, right? They're just little problems. I go to log in with SCDM, and there is a significant lag. And I'm not talking about just a little bit of lag of, like your system initially starting up and then, going. No. This thing was, I was moving my mouse around and I'm trying to hit the text box, to type in my password on SDDM. And this thing is crawling. Like, it is crawling. And I was like, I know that Nvidia and Wayland they don't play nice together. I was like, again, I'm going to fix these issues, right? So then I go to I log in finally, okay, and I noticed KDE. KDE is, I mean, it is super slow, okay? Not a big deal. But then I started getting these errors too. KDE starts popping up these kernel errors, like these kernel stuff, and I'm like, okay, first I want to get the system running at a decent speed, and then I'll look at these errors and we'll fix this stuff, right? So I get on Google, and then I find a thing that tells me that I can switch STDM to use X instead of Wayland. So I fixed that issue, and then I get STDM working at a decent speed. Then I go ahead and log out again to STDM, and I switch KDE from using Wayland to using Xorg. Okay. Now I log into KDE, and KDE runs at the speed that KDE is supposed to run, right? It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's not as bad, nowhere near as bad as it was on Wayland. Well, after that, my next order of business was to look at these kernel errors that I kept getting. Because even though when I switched over to the Xorg version of KDE, I was still getting all of these kernel errors, okay? So I did some digging around, and there was a thing where if you're using a proprietary driver with the kernel, then it'll tell you that your kernel is tainted or something, and it has to do with pretty much using proprietary drivers with the kernel. Okay, I've never seen that before, but I did do some digging around on the Fedora forums, and that's the TLDR is pretty much what they said. Well, then I was like, okay, well, that's not a big deal. I was like, but why the hell is the system booting up so slow, right? Because I have a really beefy machine. I've got almost a 5 gigahertz processor in this machine. It don't take that long to boot up, okay? In fact, on Gen 2, Arch, or anything like that, I boot up in like 10 seconds, 8 seconds, something like that. So it don't take that long. I was like, something else is kind of going on, so then I learned about this journal CTL command or something, and it pretty much allows me to read systemd information and dmessage to see if there's any weird things going on at boot time. Well, and that's kind of where I also learned about the kernel stuff going on with the tainted kernel, because I've got about 12 to 14 different errors with that tainted kernel error. So then I was like, it was getting late. It really was. It was around. I started around 10. I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I'm getting a little frustrated, getting a little tired. I was like, you know what I'll do? I was like, I'll worry about it in the morning. I was like, I'm just gonna put on some YouTube, and I'm gonna chill out the rest of the night, and maybe watch some videos, catch up on some videos that I like to watch here on YouTube of some of my favorite YouTubers. So I first off, I log into my YouTube account, okay, and then I got some messages or something on my YouTube channel, and I was gonna go check those. Well, like when you click on your video, or you click on a video in YouTube, like even if you're checking a message, the video automatically starts playing and everything. So I went to click on one of my videos to check the messages and respond and everything. And I was getting video playback errors. Video playback errors. Now the weird thing is that there were certain people I could click on, okay, that I could watch, and I wouldn't get a single error. Like I wouldn't get nothing, okay? But then there was other, like I could go back in my on my channel, and I could look at I could look at a video that I did a couple weeks ago. It would play. So I was like, maybe it's 2K, maybe it's the 2K resolution. Maybe it's a I don't know, maybe it's a video driver problem, I can fix the issue, right? Well, I kept going to different videos, and I was like, maybe it's just my channel. Maybe YouTube. Maybe it's YouTube. Well, so then I go to another YouTuber's channel, and I could watch their previous videos, but I couldn't watch their newest videos. And I was like, well, maybe it's my internet connection, right? Maybe I'm just having internet issues. So I hop on my phone. Video plays fine. I was like, all right, I got a smart TV also. Let me check the TV. I get on the TV. I go to the video that wouldn't play on my desktop. Plays fun. So it's not my internet. It's not my phone. I mean, it's not, it's not my phone. It's not the internet. I was like, well, maybe it's Firefox, right? So I think I downloaded another browser, and I went to look at, play a video again. Same issues. Now, at this time, it was, let's say 2:30ish, and I was downright just pissed. Here I'm thinking, I'm going to install a new distro. I'm going to make some content about this new distro. Everything's going to be honky-dory. We're going to be good, right? And the truth is I had nothing but problems. Now, I'm not going to blame Fedora for these issues, okay? The main issue, I really think the main issue is, I have really new hardware, okay? And certain distros, especially distros that uses Wayland, it just doesn't work. Nvidia and Wayland does not work. Now, Nvidia and AMD seems to work fine. You can go ask Matt over there at the LinuxCast, and I think he has an AMD card, and he seems to be able to use Wayland without issues. Same thing with Josh. Okay, I know Josh runs a Intel Arc card, and he seems to be able to use Wayland without issues. I, on the other hand, use an Nvidia card. Okay, and I'm in the same situation that pretty much I think DistroTube uses a Nvidia card as well. So we're kind of in this situation where Nvidia simply does not play nice with Wayland. For whatever reason, the open source driver seems to work, and it works decently. But it's just not there yet. So I think that was the main issue going on, and the reason I was having some of the problems that I was having. Now, I'm not bashing Fedora. Like I said, I understand that they're going to transition over to Wayland. I get it, because regardless of how we all feel about it, Wayland is the future. Now, hopefully, when it goes mainstream and and everyone starts using it, and all these other Linux distros adopt that, hopefully the Nvidia problems are fixed. So you might be asking, well, what did I do? Okay, because obviously I have a good system. I have a system here running i3, and it looks like my old Gen 2 system. Well, not quite. I installed Arco. I did. I installed Arco. Really wasn't intentional, but after messing around with Fedora, I thought about installing OpenSUSE, and then I forgot what happened or the reason I decided against it. But I looked on their website. I was really going to install the Tumbleweed edition, the rolling release edition. And then I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'll just go to Arco. So what did I do? I went to the Arco's website. Actually, I Googled the i3 edition of Arco because their Arco's website's garbage. It really is. They have a fantastic distribution. Okay, I know Eric Dubois, or I think I'm saying his last name right. He does a fantastic job. Don't get me wrong, but the website is garbage. He needs a web developer, a web designer, because the website is not good. So I managed to find the i3 ISO, installed it. The funny thing is went to install Arco. Okay, like I said, it boots up in about 10 seconds. It was like 6 or 7 clicks to get to the end of the installer. The install took maybe 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes at the most. Installed it. I had i3 up and running with Arch Linux Arch Linux in probably 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes tops. And I messed around with Fedora for about 3.5 to 4 hours. So that was my experience. And then, of course, today I woke up and I pulled down some of my my configurations and stuff like that to make this distro my own. So that was the weird 24 hours that I had. Let me know if you guys have had any kind of experience like this before. Like I said, I'm not bashing Fedora or anything like that. I think Fedora has a fantastic distribution. I just wish that the Wayland Nvidia side of things, I wish they played more nicely with each other, but hopefully in the future they will. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, you guys take care. Be safe. Peace.